First and foremost, does it make a difference whether those faces are in person or through a screen? And I ask this because we do have a lot of kids today who are exposed to an inordinate amount of media, social media, traditional media. I mean, they are getting bombarded with images, but I assume there is a difference in how our brains perceive those images when they're seen through the context of a screen or a phone versus when we see them in the real world and we can interact with them as 3D figures. First of all, I guess the question is there a difference? And secondly, what impact do you feel like that amount of technology on young minds is having in their ability to learn and to associate with other people?
A great question. We could go on for hours about this one. So, so let's get to the first question. So the first question: is there a difference between seeing someone on a screen versus seeing someone in real life? And yeah, there's a huge difference between the two things. And the reason, it's multifaceted. So one of the reasons is that when you see someone on a screen, such as we're talking to each other now, you don't get all the really good neurotransmitters that we actually need to actually connect with each other. So when we see each other on a screen like this, what the main neurotransmitter that's released is dopamine, which we all know about dopamine, how important it is. But we don't get things like serotonin and oxytocin, which are really, really important for us to actually connect. So when we meet in real life, when we actually in the same room as each other, you and I would probably greet each other. We'd smile at each other, which is really important because that is contagious. So you actually, when you smile at someone else, you activate a mirror neuron system, which actually activates their muscles in their face, which means that they actually get the same response as you for the smile, and so you actually feel happy about actually seeing this person, and you actually will then smile back pretty automatically. And so that's a positive aspect to it, but you get that on the screen as well because you're both on the screen. And that's the release of dopamine that I was talking about. But also we actually touch each other appropriately, of course, but we touch each other. So in all societies, we have some way of touching each other when we actually greet. In more stoic societies like the US and here in Australia, we'll shake hands because it's appropriate way of actually touching each other. In Europe, of course, they'll kiss each other on the cheeks. Even the Inuits, because the only part of their body that's actually showing is their face, they'll rub noses so that they're touching their skin. The reason we touch skin is that we as primates have C fibers in our skin. There are special fibers in our skin which are just there for touch. And they actually activate an area of our brain which releases oxytocin. And oxytocin actually makes us more likely to connect with someone, more open to actually making a relationship with that person, and more open to trusting that person. It's what's released when women are breastfeeding, for example. It's what's released when we have an orgasm, and it's released when we touch each other on those C fibers. And that's why we actually do those things like shaking hands and so on. That is really crucial for making a real connection with someone. But you don't get that when you're online because you can't touch each other unless we start rubbing each other. But that doesn't work anywhere near as well as actually touching in real life. So that's really, really important aspect to actually being face to face with someone. There's also the added bonus of the pheromones. So we have pheromones that are released from each other that actually, again, help us to connect to the other person. And so those are chemicals in the air that go through our noses and through our mouths, and it activates different parts of our brains and tells us who this person is and whether or not we like this person, and a lot of other things as well, which is really important as well for that connection. So those things are really important for actually making the connection. The other thing, we now know that people actually think that someone likes them more or is willing to connect more closely with someone when they do it face to face because they've made the effort to actually do that. Yeah, because it actually takes effort to go and actually meet someone, and so it actually brings people closer together, especially these days, because people are like, well, intrinsically, it's not something you explicitly think, but it's intrinsically you think this person actually made an effort. They're actually come out of their house or they've come out of their office to actually meet me and interact with me. So that also adds to that connection and adds to all those really happy neurotransmitters that we receive when we're actually meeting someone face to face. We don't get any of that when we're actually online. connecting with each other. And the other problem, of course, is most kids and teenagers don't actually do Zoom or Skype or any of those things, right? They're on social media where they're seeing pictures of people, and they're static pictures. So they're not getting all the movement associated with actually connecting with someone. And when we're talking to someone like you and I are, we get the prosody and all those things of the voice, which actually change based on whether you're happy or you're sad or you're keen or whatever. And you don't get any of that information either. And then another thing you don't get when you're online is you don't get the body language. So you and I can only really see above our waist here. We don't really know what's going on below there. And we actually get a lot of information from body language when we're actually associating with someone, when we're actually talking to someone face to face, whether they're slumped forward or whether they're sitting up. Whereas we all tend, when we're on Skype, to sit as neatly as we can. And we're looking at each other ourselves as well. So we're constantly monitoring that. Whereas when you're actually with someone, you're not looking at yourself. So you're not monitoring how you're looking. So therefore, you're more likely to go into body language positions, which it's going to tell them stuff that you wouldn't normally get. So those are, I think I've run through about 5 or 6 different aspects that are different when you're actually face to face. And being face to face, like real face to face with someone, activates more of your brain than anything else we can do. If you actually want to be an intelligent individual, the best thing you can do is sit down and chat to someone, because that's going to activate more of your brain than anything else you can do in your life, because our brains have evolved to actually socialize, because that's our most crucial and most important asset that we have. That's what we do better than any other animal, is socialize and collaborate and connect with each other. And so more of our brain is dedicated to that. So by actually doing that, you activate more of your brain, which means that you keep your brain stronger and it becomes healthier by actually doing that. But we don't get that when we're online because of all those things that aren't actually happening. And then there's a lot of negative things that happen when we're online.